Our team has shipped the full self-driving beta software to everyone who has purchased it in the United States and Canada. It's roughly 400,000 vehicles, and today they have driven up to 50 million miles on FSD beta. So here you can see predictions of these models. The lanes that you see here, the vehicles that you see here are all just predicted, again, by these networks without a lot of post-processing. There is no tracking or anything like that in the things that you're seeing here. We have built this sophisticated auto labeling pipeline that gives us data from the entire fleet. Millions of video clips across the entire world can be tapped. Once you have this base structure of trajectories, calibration from all these cameras, you can really do a lot of cool things to reconstruct the entire scene. And you can see here, the barriers, the vehicles, even trucks, etc., are reconstructed pretty accurately. We can predict their shape, color, relevancy. And since this is all just predicting future, RGB values, the ontology is quite general. You can throw any video clip from driving or from YouTube or from your own phone. Anything can be used to train this general dynamics model of the world. Personally, I'm amazed by how well this works, and it's a very exciting future that we are working on here. The only thing I can say is that it hasn't shipped to customers yet, and we are still optimizing it. Maybe later this year.
In this video, some guy who, for some reason, works at Tesla and has somehow managed to slip through the net so far and claims to be leading up a team who are developing this incredible real-world AI, which doesn't really align with them being just a car company, shares some incredible insights about this real-world AI that seem to indicate Tesla's on the cusp of solving autonomy and unlocking a decatrillion-dollar opportunity. So as a Tesla stock investor or potential Tesla stock investor, you should definitely ignore this video because Tesla's just a car company and this guy's just the whole thing. He just obviously made it all up. Obviously, trolling aside, this is a very important video. It gets a bit nerdy. We do get down in the weeds a little, but I really implore you, stick with me, stick with Akash, try to understand what you're saying and to grasp the implications because they really are profound. Or alternatively, you can wait a few years until autonomy has been solved, the stonk market has figured out the financial implications for Tesla, and wallow in regret. And speaking of regret, you'll definitely regret not joining Patreon and subscribing over on Twitter with the links in the pinned comment to unlock a ton of exclusive content.
Hi everyone, my name is Ashok Elluswamy. I work at Tesla on the Autopilot team. Today I would like to present our work on what we think is going to be the foundation model for autonomy and robotics. This is not just the work of myself. I'm representing a large team of talented engineers in our team. Let's get started. Our team has shipped the full self-driving beta software to everyone who has purchased it in the United States and Canada. There's roughly 400,000 vehicles, and today they have driven up to 50 million miles on FSD beta.
So as we know, data isn't critically important to training and improving the capabilities of artificial intelligence. Therefore, the fact that Tesla has accumulated approximately 250 million miles of real-world data in the United States, real roads, real intersections, real incidents, real vehicles, real situations, including a lot of unusual edge cases, certainly doesn't matter and doesn't indicate that Tesla has an unassailable lead when it comes to solving autonomy. So despite the fact that Tesla has literal orders of magnitude more data available to train their neural networks to solve autonomy, doesn't really matter. And the fact that they're accumulating data at a rate orders of magnitude faster than anyone else also doesn't matter. After all, Tesla's just a car company anyway. It's not like they just told everybody they're aiming for around 100 exaflops of compute by this time next year, I know they did say that. Maybe there's something to this data flywheel and the vehicles collecting data on roads, the miles driven. Maybe there is something in this. Maybe Tesla is in fact on the cusp of solving autonomy and maintaining an unassailable lead. I'm just kidding. The analysts are right. Tesla's just a car company and you definitely shouldn't value anything at all to do with autonomy until after it's already happened. Because as we know, smart investors wait until everybody's figured it out first rather than figuring out what's going to happen and investing before it happens. Right? Is that how it works? I'm not very good at investing. Let me know in the comments below. Is that how you do it? You just wait until the whole market's figured it out and then you jump on board, or do you try and figure it out ahead of time? Yeah, I don't know. I'm just some guy on the internet.
I think the cool thing about this is that this is a scalable self-driving stack that you can take the car anywhere to the US, turn it on, put it in a destination, and the car would attempt to navigate to the destination, handling all of the turns, stopping at traffic lights, interacting with other objects. And all of this is driven primarily by the 8 cameras that are on the car that are giving a full 360-degree coverage around the car. The reason that works well is because our stack is based on, really modern machine learning based stack where a lot of the components of the self-driving stack are just folded into neural networks. And I would say this is different than the more traditional approach to self-driving, which uses a localization, maps, a lot of radar, ultrasonics, etc., to fuse together. Instead, this is primarily being driven by just cameras. And if you have a Tesla yourself, you can obviously buy the car and experience it. Otherwise, you just to take my word or look at some videos, but it works quite well. And we are in the process of making it even better.
This is definitely another point that really smart investors should completely ignore, because after all, the autonomy leaderboards claim that Tesla is in dead last. And plus, the fact that Tesla's using cameras plus a neural network to interpret the real world in real time when it encounters a situation, rather than having its handheld being fed HD maps of the area in which it knows it's going to be driving, and using sensors like LiDAR, which are not only butt-ass ugly but expensive, to bounce a signal off the objects it already knows are there just to make sure they're still there. Oh, that gutter's right there. That tree's right there. That curb's right there. Oh, okay, cool. Everything's in the same place. I feel safe. Great. I'm glad you're holding my hand. The fact that Tesla, on the other hand, isn't reliant upon HD maps, isn't reliant upon expensive sensors, and is in fact seeing through cameras, just like human beings. We've got two cameras, most of us, attached to a neural net. And not only seeing, but perceiving. It understands what it sees, builds a model of the world in real time. Okay, that's a road, that's a car, that's a lane divider. The fact that Tesla's vehicles are clearly exemplifying real-world artificial intelligence, no party tricks, no hand-holding, no guardrails, no training wheels, is entirely irrelevant because the autonomy leaderboard said so. Tesla's in dead last. You can trust those autonomy leaderboards. What Tesla's doing is exactly the same as Cruise and Waymo, exactly the same. Totally. That's why Cruise and Waymo vehicles are operating everywhere on US... Oh, wait, they're not. Well, anyway, that's irrelevant because the experts, once again, said that Tesla's in dead last. Oh, and Cruise and Waymo already have robotaxis operating in very small areas in the United States, which proves they're ahead of Tesla. Never mind the fact that these aren't actually scalable solutions. I'm going to stop trolling, I swear, I promise. Maybe I won't, but I'll try to troll a little bit less. The point that I'm trying to make here is most folks who are reliant upon so-called experts who are claiming Tesla is behind in terms of autonomy. Look, there's a robotaxi in this region from Cruise or Waymo. Proof Tesla's behind. Is missing the forest for the trees. Tesla has developed a generalized solution. As Ashok just pointed out, you can turn this software on anywhere on roads in the United States and it will attempt to drive you to your destination. Now, it's not perfect yet. It will make mistakes. This is why it's still in beta. But if you were to pick up a Cruise or Waymo vehicle and drop it outside its geofenced, HD pre-mapped area, it will do one of two things. Start mowing people down, or just pull over and start crying in the corner for daddy to come and help because I'm stuck. I don't know what to do, daddy. I've never been here before. This is scary. What is this? Where's my map? It's unknown territory because I can't see. I can't perceive. I'm dumb. This is the key distinction. And people won't get this. I don't think the general public will understand until the robotaxis awaken. One after the other, Tesla starts seeding vehicles in certain regions and bam, their robotaxis are legally operating on roads. Then bam, another location, bam, bam, bam. Next minute, the entire United States, and then globally. I don't think it's until that point that people will realize, oh, that really was a scalable solution. That really is real world AI, and that really is something that no one else, at least outside of China, where there's not much visibility, has developed. This is going to be, in my opinion, the single biggest ever missed opportunity when it comes to investors who could have known, but just didn't see, didn't know what they were looking at, didn't take the time to really understand the distinction between what Tesla was doing. An intelligent, generalized solution, literally real-world AI, which can see. Tesla is solving vision in the real world, perception, planning, and action based upon what it sees. There are no other companies in the United States doing the same thing. But until you get underneath, not just look at the tip of the iceberg, oh, robotaxis, but actually look underneath at what's going on and try to understand the technological differences, it's very easy to miss what's about to happen.
I shared about these occupancy networks that are one of the more important pieces in our stack. I would consider this as one of the foundational model tasks because this is very general. This is a very general task and doesn't have any specific ontology or like at least robust to ontology errors. It really just predicts whether some voxel in 3D space is occupied or not, and the probability of that. And can hence represent arbitrary scenes. There is no labeling or ontology design required, and it's quite general and can apply like anywhere. In addition to just the occupancy, we also predict the flow of voxels in the future that kind of like gives arbitrary motion as well. And everything runs in real time.
Now, unless you're a nerd who's spent a lot of time studying the human brain, cognition, vision, maybe even had a few interesting experiences on high doses of psychedelics where some of the machinery in our minds completely breaks down. Object detection, Is that an edge? Is that moving? Is that not? These kind of things. You may not quite grasp the profundity of what we're seeing here. Tesla's occupancy network is doing the exact same thing that our brains do. Now, this is really important. One more time. This is what our brains do. Subconsciously, we're unaware of it. There are a number of layers. During perception, our brain subconsciously is deciding, is there an object there? Is there an edge here? Is this alive? Is this a threat? The same processes that our brains do when perceiving the world through our cameras attached to our neural net is exactly what Tesla's AI is doing when driving a vehicle. Now, it's imperfect. Technically, ours is too. If you've ever seen an optical illusion, that's proof of a brain malfunction. But this is intelligence. This is real world intelligence. This isn't a party trick. Human beings don't have LiDAR to bounce signals off objects to determine if there's something there. Ashok is explaining how a Tesla vehicle, their AI, their software, their artificial intelligence, does the same things a human brain does through cameras, the same system. It's interesting, isn't it, that no human beings have built-in LiDAR or built-in radar, yet we're able to do a relatively decent job of driving vehicles. 2 cameras, 1 neural net, boom. Admittedly, there are over 1 million deaths per year in road accidents, so we're not great. But the point is, there's proof of concept. And we are seeing Tesla's capabilities in their software, their AI, incrementally creep closer and closer and closer to human abilities. And Tesla AI won't stop once it matches human level capabilities. It's going to continue to improve and improve and improve. There will come a point in the future, I don't know exactly when, where it will be illegal for human beings to drive vehicles on public roads because we're too dangerous. We make too many mistakes. And I know this is super nerdy for a lot of people. What the f*** is an occupancy network? But it's so important. Try to understand this stuff. At least if you don't want to miss out on a decatrillion-dollar opportunity. The solving of autonomy will be a seismic disruption, the likes of which I don't think humanity has ever seen before. And this is not hyperbole.
And the same architecture and the modeling can be used not just for occupancy, but for other tasks that are needed for driving. Obviously, lanes and roads are very important for driving tasks, but I'd say lanes are quite obnoxious to predict. The reason is, first of all, lanes are higher dimensional objects, unlike, it's definitely not like 1D or 2D, like, high dimensional. And then they have like a graph structure. Like objects, for the most part, like say vehicles, they're self-contained, they're just, local, whereas like lanes can span the entire road. You can see multiple miles of lanes in your view, and they can fork and merge and cause all kinds of trouble in the modeling. They also have large uncertainty. Sometimes you might not be able to view the lanes because they're occluded or it's nighttime, only part of the lane is visible. And it's not just that. Sometimes even if everything is visible, even humans cannot agree on whether something that you're looking at is 2 lanes or 1 lane, for instance. So there's a ton of uncertainty in what are lanes. And then it's not sufficient to just predict them as some kind of raster. It's very hard to use downstream then. So it's better to predict them as some kind of vector representation, like polylines, splines, polynomials, etc., to help with ease of use. And all of this needs to happen within tens of milliseconds in real time. Like I said, it's like a very difficult problem to predict lanes in real time in the real world. Nonetheless, we use state-of-the-art generative modeling techniques. In this case, we use autoregressive transformers, quite similar to, I would say, GPT, in terms of how we model the lanes. So we can predict you can tokenize the lanes and then predict them 1 token at a time. Unlike language, which is mostly linear, we have to predict the full graph structure. Hence, we come back, predict what is the forking point, what is the merging point, etc. And everything is done end to end using neural networks with little to no post-processing required after this.
Now, I know we're getting into the weeds a little here, but the short story, if you kind of look what the f***'s going on here, Tesla's real-world AI doesn't need somebody ahead of time to tell it where the lanes are, how many lanes there are, which lanes can turn right or left, which lanes merge, and if so, where. Instead, in real time, just like a human being, Tesla Vision is looking out into the world with its 8 cameras, as opposed to our 2, and predicting. Okay, looks like there's 3 lanes here. Not certain, maybe, or maybe there's a merger of 2 lanes that I don't know. Get a bit closer. Oh yeah, those 2 lanes do in fact merge. This again is the key distinction. What Tesla has developed is intelligent. It is making predictions. And we heard earlier about the occupancy networks. One point I didn't mention. Not only is the occupancy network determining, is there an object here in this piece of 3D space, but it's also making predictions about what that object is going to do in the future. For example, if it sees an object that's moving in this direction, oh, that's probably a car. It's probably going to keep moving in this direction. When you hear words like predicting, planning, perceiving, these are all indications of intelligence. No party tricks to be seen. just real world intelligence, real world artificial intelligence.
Another important task for self-driving is obviously moving objects, vehicles, trucks, pedestrians, what have you. And it's not sufficient to just detect them. You need to have their full kinematic state and also predict their shape information, their futures, etc. All of these models, the models that I described earlier, even the lanes one and objects one, are in some ways multimodal models in the sense that they take in not just camera video streams, they also take in other inputs, such as, in this case, ego's own kinematics. So ego's velocity, acceleration, jerk, etc. all goes in. We also provide in the navigation instructions to the lanes to kind of guide us where to, like which lane to use, etc. So everything is done within the network. That's why I say it's like a modern machine learning stack where instead of doing this in post-processing, we just try to combine everything and then do perception sort of end-to-end, so to speak. So here you can see predictions of these models. The lanes that you see here, the vehicles that you see here are all just predicted, again, by these networks without a lot of post-processing. There is no tracking or anything like that in the things that you're seeing here. So overall, I would say that's quite stable. The green spines that are coming out of these vehicles are just their forecasted future. It's kind of like a standard task at this point, I would say. But it all works quite nicely and in real time in the car.
So believe it or not, what you are seeing on screen right now, the predictions of Tesla's real-world AI, median strip, lane dividers, edge of road, separate lanes, vehicles, car, truck, and so on. The model we are seeing, visually represented, is akin to what our own brains do when we're driving in the real world. You don't necessarily see this stuff going on, but this is what your brain is doing as well. It's building a model of the real world, making predictions about others, e.g., that's a vehicle, it's going this direction, it's probably going to keep going this direction, that one might cross my path, I need to turn here. This vehicle will probably turn here. This is the exact same thing that our brains do without us knowing it. As you look on screen now, remember, Tesla's vehicles have not been fed any information ahead of time. Based on just the cameras alone, it has determined where the lanes are, how many lanes there are, where it can and can't drive. Parked vehicles, moving vehicles. This is exactly what our brains do without us realizing it. This truly is profound. I wish this was easier for people to just understand intuitively, but it is so important. And as we heard, these predictions are extremely stable. Early days when we first saw this stuff visualized, stuff was glitching in and out, disappearing, jumping around the place. Sketchy as fuck, high levels of uncertainty. But this level of stability in these predictions, this model of the world, shows how much this technology has improved. And the improvements will not stop. More data, more compute for training, more capable software. Next minute, autonomy solved. Next minute, the robotaxis awaken. Next minute, a bunch of people go, oh man, I really wish I had realized ahead of time. Oh shit, I missed out. Just saying.
It doesn't have to stop with just perception too. Once we have all of these percepts, like lanes, occupancy, objects, and even a few more like traffic controls, and other things, you can do the entire motion planning, also using just a network. I won't go into too many details on like how we do that, but essentially, it can just be thought of as like one more task instead of it being a separate thing. So how is all of this possible? And I think it's because we have built this sophisticated auto labeling pipeline that gives us data from the entire fleet. Millions of video clips across the entire world can be tapped. On the left side, what you're seeing is an example of multi-trip reconstruction, where we choose some location, multiple Tesla vehicles driving through the location, upload their video clips and other vehicle kinematic data to us. We bring everything together and reconstruct the entire 3D scene. So the polylines that you look, there's a cyan colored one. There's also a few other colored ones. Those are all different cars doing different trips through the world, and it's actually all very well aligned. Let me see if I can play it again. Yeah. The pink line and the cyan line that you see there, those are like different trips of different cars driving around, and everything is just aligned very nicely.
If you've ever driven a vehicle, you'll have driven a vehicle somewhere new for the very first time. Think back to what that experience was like. You're a lot more cautious. You don't really know the roads, especially if you're not relying upon GPS. So for some of you OGs who were around before GPS driving vehicles, I'm among them, try to remember that experience. You're not familiar with the roads. There's a turn. How sharp is that corner? Should I slow down? Am I going too fast? What lane do I need to be in? This whole process, it's very cognitively demanding. The second time you drive the same way, the third time, the fourth time, eventually it gets to a point where you're so familiar, you just zone out. You don't even remember driving. Next minute, you're at your destination. Suddenly, what was once a cognitively demanding task is now automatic. Why? Familiarity. You have enough data now from this particular place where you understand intimately the road, the lanes, everything. What we've just heard is an example of Tesla's fleet doing the same thing, learning through experience about a particular area. And that learning, that information, is now applied to all vehicles in the Tesla fleet. So the capabilities of Tesla vehicles improve over time as the vehicles, any vehicle in that fleet, gets more familiar with a particular route, just like humans. Isn't that interesting?
And this multi-trip reconstruction has enabled us to, get all the lanes, road lines, everything directly from the fleet in the millions, anywhere on Earth, essentially. Once you have this base structure of trajectories, calibration from all these cameras, you can really do a lot of cool things to reconstruct the entire scene. I'm not sure if the video plays quite nicely, but in my own screen, it looks very smooth, where you can see the ground surface. It's reconstructed quite nicely. There's no artifacts such as double vision or blurring. Things are crisp, look like geometric, they are correct. This is a hybrid approach to NERV and general 3D reconstruction. Sometimes in NERV, even though the re-rendered visuals might look very nice, the underlying geometry might be very fuzzy and cloudy. So we have a hybrid approach, which works quite nicely. And you can see here, the barriers, the vehicles, even trucks, etc., are reconstructed pretty accurately. Once we have these reconstructions, we then run even more neural networks just offline to produce the labels that we want. Like I had mentioned earlier, for lanes, we need some kind of vector representation to make it very easy to use. So instead of just using raster directly, take rasters, we have offline neural networks that run on top of it and then produce the vector representation that can be then used as labels for the online stack. Similar to the lanes, once you have the lanes and the roads reconstructed, you can also auto-label traffic lights. Here you're seeing traffic lights auto-labeled by our system without any human inputs. And these are all multi-view consistent. Let me try to play it again. Yeah, we can predict their shape, color, relevancy. You can see these white traffic lights on the side. They also reproject correctly into all the camera views. And it's because we have this really good auto-labeling system that calibrates everything jointly and it's pixel perfect in 3D space. So yeah, all of these predictions together give us super solid understanding of the world from cameras. And I would already try to call this, sort of a foundation model that can be used in a lot of different places.
That comment about this foundational model being able to be used in lots of different places definitely had literally nothing at all to do with humanoid robots.
And these predictions really help FSD, drive in any place. You don't have to geo-restrict it. You can, even sometimes construct a new road, turn it on, and it would work quite nicely there. In addition, they also help manual driving, obviously, because humans are not perfect drivers, so they need some help every now and then. In this case, on the left side, the ego driver, for some reason, blew past the stop sign and was almost about to crash into this red car.
Well, I'm sure Dan O'Dowd is about to drop a few $1 million running a campaign to have that driver removed from roads, right?
And our system, detected this and then braked automatically. And similar on the right side, driving straight, and then someone just comes in and then cuts us off. It's quite dangerous, but then the system applied the brake quite early. The reason why this is different than, what you would think that AV systems have been there for since 1980s. What is new about this? I think Tesla is the first company to ship this emergency braking for crossing vehicles, to the best of my knowledge. And the reason that crossing objects are harder, unlike, say, vehicles that are in your own lane, is because for crossing objects, you need to know whether they're going to stop in time or not. What is the stop line? Do they have traffic lights? And if they were to turn, which lanes would they turn into, etc. There's a ton of work that needs to happen to understand where the crossing objects would go and likely to go. Do they have room to stop, etc. It's not as simple as just directing a vehicle and having the velocities and things like those.
Another important point. Again, we're hearing descriptions of intelligence. How fast is the vehicle going? Where is it going? Is there stop traffic? Does it have room to get across? Is there a lane there? Seeing, perceiving, understanding, and then making predictions about the behavior of this vehicle and whether or not it's an issue, whether or not the brakes need to be applied. This is extremely different from emergency braking from a vehicle in front of you, which is a very simple ballistics problem.
Yeah, so like I said, I believe Tesla is the first company to ship crossing AB, and it's already in customers' hands in the last several months. But is the foundation model really just, a bunch of these tasks concatenated together, or can there be more to it? We think there can be more to it. These tasks, like in the occupancy, for example, while it's quite general, some things are harder to represent even in that space. I'll probably go into more details shortly. So that's why we are working on learning a more general world model that can really just represent arbitrary things. So in this case, what we do is we have a neural network that can be conditioned on the past or other things to predict the future.
Here's a question. Does predicting the future require intelligence? Something to ponder. Oh, and just to be clear, the vision on screen, those cameras, that's not video from a Tesla vehicle in the real world. That's Tesla's simulation of the real world. I know it looks like camera footage. That's kind of the point. Tesla's developed a near perfect simulation based on the cameras, the resolution, the placement to run different scenarios, just like the real world, something our own brains do as well. We'll run simulations and scenarios in our own brains. This really matters.
And obviously everyone has wanted to work on this forever. And I think with the recent rise in generative models like, transformers, diffusion, etc., we finally have a shot at it. So what you're seeing here is purely generated video sequences. Given the past videos, the network predicts some sample from the future, hopefully the most likely sample. And you can see that it is being predicted not just for one camera, but it predicts all the 8 cameras around the car jointly. And you can see how the car colors are consistent across the cameras. The motion of objects is consistent in 3D, even though we have not explicitly asked it to do anything in 3D or not even baked in any 3D priors. This is just the network understanding depth and motion on its own without us informing it of so. And since this is all just predicting future, RGB values, the ontology is quite general. You can throw any video clip from driving or from YouTube or from your own phone. Anything can be used to train this general dynamics model of the world.
That was a profoundly important statement. Maybe rewind and listen to that again.
Additionally, it can also be action conditioned. We can show a few examples. So here on the left side, the car is driving in the lane, and we're asking it to, okay, just keep in this lane and keep driving. And then, like I said earlier, the car is able to, or the model is able to predict all of this geometry flow by very nicely and understands 3D. On the right here, we're asking it to change lanes to the right side. Maybe we'll go back and play it again. So on the left, it's just going straight. And we ask it to go straight, the model goes straight. And then on the right side, we ask it to make a lane change, and it makes a lane change. And the past context is the same for both of these outputs. So given the same past, and when we ask it for different futures, the model is able to produce or imagine different futures. This is super powerful because now you have essentially a neural network simulator that can simulate different futures based on different actions.
Here's a fun fact. Predicting different possible futures is exactly what our own brains do. Constantly, one of the foundational features of intelligence. This is how we avoid getting deleted from the gene pool on a daily basis. How we make decisions. Not only that, but we go multiple layers deep. If I take this action, what's likely to happen? What are some of the possible outcomes? How likely is each of these outcomes? What about if I make this decision? What if that person, that object makes a different decision? What if they do this? What happens? Keyword, intelligence.
And unlike a traditional game simulator, this is way more powerful because it can, represent things that are very hard to describe in an explicit system. I'll show a few more examples, but then it is super powerful. And also the motion, the intention, and then the natural behavior of other objects, such as vehicles, is very hard to represent explicitly, but in this world, it's very easy to represent. It doesn't have to stop with just RGB. You can obviously do this kind of future prediction task, not just in RGB, but also in panoptic segmentation, or you can extend it to also 3D spaces, where you can imagine future 3D scenes entirely based on just the past, and then your action prompting, or even without prompting, you can predict different futures. This is, I'm amazed by how well this works, and it's a very exciting future that we are working on here. Yeah, here's some examples where I think something like this is going to be needed to represent what's happening in the scene. There's a lot of smoke coming in one of the pictures. There's paper flying everywhere. That's going to be tough for even occupancy, where you have paper flying everywhere. There's occupancy flow, but then how do you know it's paper? What do you know the material properties of it? There's smoke. Obviously, you can drive through it, but it is occupying space, and light does not transmit through. There's a lot of nuances to driving, and we have to really solve all of these problems to build a general driving stack that can drive anywhere in the world and be human-like, might be fast, efficient, at all speeds, yet very safe. And I think we're working on the right recipe for building this. And obviously, training all these models takes a ton of compute, and that's why Tesla is aiming to become a world leader in compute. Dojo is our training hardware that we have custom built at Tesla that is starting production next month, essentially. And with that, we think we are on the way to become one of the top compute platforms in the entire world. And we also think that to train these foundational models for vision, we need a lot of compute, and not just compute for training this one model, but compute to try a lot of different experiments to see which models actually work well. And that's why it's super exciting for us to be in this spot where compute is going to be abundant, and it's just going to be bounded by ideas of engineers.
Hang on. The experts told me that Tesla was just a car company. Why would they need 100 exaflops of compute next year? Why would they be building their own chip for training AI? I don't understand. They're just a car company. Why would they need all this compute? Why would they want one of the world's largest supercomputers? Why would they have built their own training chip, and why would that be entering production next month? We should definitely ignore this. It's not important.
The plot is this is not just being built for the car, but also for the robot. We already have the occupancy networks, for example, and a few other networks all shared between the car and the robot, and it actually works quite well and generalizes across these platforms. And we want to extend it to all the tasks that we have. Even like lanes and vehicles, for example, should not be specific to cars. If the robot, say, happens to walk to the road and looks around, it should understand roads and vehicles and how vehicles move, etc. All of this are just be built for both the platforms, and any other future robotics platform that would also need this.
Just remember, according to the self-hating basement dwellers who collectively identify as Tesla Q, the Tesla humanoid robot is a joke, a scam, and/or a stock pump, not a serious product. Doesn't have profound implications. Plus, even if it did, it's not like anything Tesla developed with their real-world AI that can perceive, plan, and act in the real world. None of that stuff would translate or be easily transplantable into a humanoid robot, which also needs to see, perceive, plan, and act in the real world. It's not like humanoid robots could massively expand the global labor market and unlock potentially, wait for it, quadrillions of dollars of opportunity anyway, so we should ignore that also. Just like we should ignore autonomy because Tesla's just a car company.
That's basically it. To summarize again, we're building this super cool foundational models for vision that really understands everything. And it should generalize across cars and robots. It's going to be trained on tons of diverse data from the fleet, on tons of compute. So I'm really excited for the next 12 to 18 months of what's going to happen here. Thank you. Happy to answer any questions.
If you want to see the full Q&A, check the link in the description to watch the original video in full. I do, however, just want to share a tiny tidbit because it's kind of important.
The only thing I can say is that it hasn't shipped to customers yet, and we are still optimizing it. Maybe later this year.
Did someone say Robotaxis? I'm just kidding. Tesla's just a car company. This whole presentation is just a big stock pump. Ignore it. You won't regret it, I promise. If for some strange reason, however, you decide not to ignore everything you saw in this video and do start to think about the potential implications of Tesla solving autonomies, robotaxis awakening, and the profound implications not only for the world, but more importantly, through the lens of a Tesla stock investor, the company's financials, you may want to head over to Patreon and check out my Tesla valuation model, available to supporters at the investor level and above, in which I share my own estimates in different scenarios, worst case, all the way through to the best case, for what happens if this just a car company magically somehow does in fact solve autonomy, and the robotaxis do in fact awaken, and Tesla does in fact begin to print unfathomable amounts of money as a result. You want to join Patreon? Click the link in the pinned comment. Athletic Greens AG1 has given me a massive, meaningful boost in energy, allowing me to do a lot more every day, including using my brain more and using my body more. I highly recommend you guys and girls check it out. Athletic Greens AG1 is an excellent way to fill in nutritional gaps. It's got 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, and whole food source nutrients, plus prebiotics and probiotics and digestive enzymes and adaptogens to help you deal with stress. Plus, if you click the link in the pinned comment or head to drinkag1.com/SMR, you can get yourself a 1-year free supply of vitamin D3 and K2. But don't take my word for it. Here's what some of you guys and girls have to say. AG1 has changed my life. I was, as you described, treating myself like a circus, ate like trash, rarely exercised, used alcohol as a stress crutch, cannabis also. AG1 is what gave me the kick in the ass, got me back to the gym, motivated me to do more for myself, family, my business, etc. Keep doing what you do. Now, I know there's some skeptics, the same kind of people who think Elon Musk is a fraud, reading this going, what do you thought? There's no way that's possible, bro. It must be a placebo effect. Believe it or not, this is a recurring theme. If you give your body everything it needs to feel and perform its best, including having a lot more energy, you'll need ways to use that energy. For me personally, that includes more exercise, moving my body more social activity, and more cognitively demanding tasks, including producing a fuck ton of exclusive content over on Twitter and on Patreon, plus my daily YouTube uploads. The proof's in the pudding. On to another testimonial from a viewer of this channel. SMR, you asked me to provide feedback on AG1. Here it is. It has helped with mental acuity, stamina, and intestinal waste management. Can't read between the lines. Certainly helps with regularity and digestion. That's what the digestive enzymes are for. It has also dramatically reduced my cravings for sugar. You guys need to stop eating sugar. It's fucking poison. I'm 50, 5'9", and overweight, aka a fat motherfucker. I think that's a technical term for overweight, isn't it? Is it fat motherfucker or obese? I can't remember. I average 100 hours a week in the West Texas oil fields as a safety supervisor. Jesus Christ, dude. No wonder you're struggling to keep your weight under control. 100 hours a week. Brutal. It has helped me lose weight. It is not an appetite suppressant. It can help fat people suppress cravings, and motivation to be healthier is critical for changing your diet. Love you, brother. Again, this is a great point. It's something people really don't seem to grasp. If you have more energy, everything becomes easier. It's like turning on easy mode for life. A few years ago, before I was taking AG1, my health was trash. I was struggling to get through the day, had afternoon fatigue. The last thing I wanted to do was either use my brain or move my body. Didn't have the energy. Now, my biggest struggle every day is figuring out ways to use that energy. I'm exercising way more, doing a lot more with my friends and family, and of course, my work output has increased substantially. And you can fact check me. Check out the average length of my videos I was posting to YouTube 3 years ago. Need I say more? And one final testimonial. Love this one. Okay, here's the deal for me with this AG1 shit. I'm 41 years old and not the type to eat, drink, smoke, or sleep healthy, so I was skeptical. That being said, here's what I experienced. Day 1, meh. Day 2, afternoon fatigue was about 45 minutes late. Day 3, 0 afternoon fatigue. Day 4, 0 afternoon fatigue plus extra energy. Day 5, again, 0 afternoon fatigue plus energy, wondering, what the fuck, really? See, this is the thing, right? The results for many people are just almost too good to be true. This is the same experience I had. My afternoon fatigue just vanished out of nowhere. I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why am I not tired in the afternoons anymore? Surely, it's not that AG1, is it? Turns out it was. Day 6 and 7, same thing. Day 8, same thing. Plus, I had the want to get things done around the house that I normally would slack off and not get done. Again, the point, extra energy, you'll need to use it, you'll find ways to use it. Day 9, 10, and 11, and today is day 12. I fucking love it. So however you managed to get me to buy it, I'm so glad you did. Thank you so much, SMR. It really changed me so far. Guys, this shit really works. Just try it. By the way, this is the reason I continue to relentlessly promote AG1. A lot of people get real fucking mad in the comments. Oh my God, snake oil salmon sold out. Oh my God, he's a scammer. This is fraud. But constantly, I'm pretty sure everyone making these comments is also currently short Tesla stock. I'm not particularly concerned about people having a negative perception, those folks suffering from small brain syndrome, still living in my bum's basement syndrome, etc., writing mean comments, claiming AG1's a scam or it doesn't work. I mean, bro, when I get feedback like this is what keeps me going. And remember, there is a 90-day money-back guarantee. There's nothing to lose here. Just try this stuff for a month, and if you don't get these results, get your money back. See, it's a literal no-brainer. It's an IQ test at this point in time. Testimonial after testimonial after testimonial like this. Get your money back if it doesn't work. Just try it for a month, and if it doesn't work, get your money back. Today's the day. It's finally time. Be like this guy who was a massive skeptic, but finally, after 1,000 promotions in a row, caved in, tried AG1, and has results like this. Head to drinkag1.com/SMR or click the link in the pinned comment, and please, let me know how you're feeling in a few weeks' time. Now, if you'll excuse me, time to put my extra energy to good use. I'll be recording some more exclusive content for Patreon and my Twitter subscribers. So click the links in the pinned comment. See you over on Twitter and or Patreon. And don't forget to grab your AG1. Love ya.